I'm posting this through a botnet, so don't even think about trying to get cute and finding me. I've got enough trouble with people finding me as it is. It all started a few months ago when I found a good source of amphetamines on the deep web marketplace I will not name. I live in a town, small and bland, that even the local high school kids don't bother selling drugs here. It's boring as sin, which is one of the many reasons I started ordering speed online in the first place. I was always very cautious. I tumbled my bitcoins carefully and ensured that every transaction was well encrypted. Yes, before you even asked, the proxies I used were fully configured and trustworthy ones. It wasn't the technology that failed me at all. Actually, it was a single mistake in my judgment. To one single trusted seller, I ended up giving my real physical address. At first I was only getting small packages for my personal use, so it was easy to have them delivered to the house of an old woman who lives nearby. Her live-in nurse consistently checked the mail very late in the day, so there was never much of an issue in retrieving the speed before it was noticed. But my habit grew and I began to introduce my close friends to the drug. So eventually I contacted my seller about ordering much larger quantities, enough for me to sell locally. We began to work like business partners in the supply chain, and I was placing substantial orders regularly. The speed originally came to me in small padded envelopes, but now it would have to be shipped in larger cardboard boxes. The envelopes always fit easy inside a mailbox, but a box like this would have to be delivered to the front door. I couldn't exactly have the mailman walking up a stranger's driveway to ring the doorbell, so I requested that the speed start being sent directly to me. I knew by this point the seller was a legitimate and reliable source, so trusting him with my address just seemed safer than the alternative. We had become something like casual friends by this point and began to do things together like frequent the same deep web communities and chat as if we were, both online together. My seller was wickedly funny sometimes and really seemed to be a nice guy, and I guess that's part of why I ended up trusting him. But then again, it's not his fault about what actually happened either. Recently, though, I got a totally unsatisfactory shipment. The pressed pills looked right at first, but tasted like bitter flour and were, far too brittle. They produced no high at all. I actually had been stiffed. And when I checked the marketplace, I found that my seller's accounts had been closed. He left no messages to explain it. I assumed that he had just ripped me off. But it also didn't seem to, it also just didn't seem like something that he would even do. I wondered if I had misjudged him. Yesterday I noticed that one of his accounts was actively posting on one of the small community forums that we frequented together. I contacted him immediately in a private message and asked whether he knew that his last batch was complete bunk. It took about 25 minutes before I got any response, but suddenly the messages began pouring in. The person you're trying to contact has passed away. Sorry. He's such a homebody that nobody has knocked on his door the whole time I'd been here. 3 whole weeks with no visitors? Isn't that funny? I'm almost done eating him. I wasted very little soft tissue. He had almost no food in the house when I killed him, so I didn't even need to clear out the fridge to store his meat. I haven't even needed to take out the trash yet. Isn't that sort of funny? I've been poking around his computer too. Going through his files is like solving a big puzzle cube. But I'm making progress. I wrote back and accused him of taking a weird joke too fucking far. I told him that he at least owed me an explanation for that last shipment. And then the responses came in again. They're bone meal. You never smelled bone meal? Do you never have a garden as a kid or anything? I thought that'd be obvious. His skeleton was the only thing I hadn't figured out what to do with yet, so I realized that I'd solve the issue and also play a little prank. Come on, don't you think that's a funny idea? There was a brief pause at this point, and then another short volley of messages before I could even form my response. You actually don't live too far away from where I am now. Judging by the address I have here, you and this guy are just over the state line from each other. Isn't that something? Well, be seeing you. What do you think? It's probably just a scheme to scare me off, right? Right? Recently I came looking for a little advice. I'd been busy then and I've had some wellness issues too. My hands and feet kept falling half asleep and I noticed that I've been getting nauseous every time my heart rate goes up at all. A few of you commented that fresh bone meal doesn't actually have a distinct taste like the one I described, and suggested that maybe it had been cut with something else, and I think you might be right. I've done some research now and found out that there might be a wide variety of paralytic and toxic agents that are bitter on the tongue like what I've described. I'm ashamed to say this, but I find myself actually hoping the taste is just cadaverine. But that just means that there's some bits of flesh that have been ground up with the bone meal and tainted it as the pieces began to rot. The fact that I tasted something like that makes me want to fucking puke. But at least cadaverine would mean that I hadn't been poisoned. Now, it's probably just my anxious mind playing tricks on me, but I'm beginning to think that the tablets did contain some kind of debilitating ingredient. The sleepiness I mentioned in my first post, which I originally attributed simply to amphetamine withdrawal, has only continued to grow worse. It's become difficult even to type out this message, and I often feel the need to massage my wrists and rest before continuing. My breathing seems to require more conscious effort than it ever did before. I've received a number of private messages chiding me on about my ignorance with regards to proper deep web safety. Okay, guys, you win. I'm ready to admit that I'm a fucking poser. I'm a script kiddie using way over his head, and there's no telling how many mistakes I've made. A number of strange accounts have begun to contact me directly on the deep and surface web alike, and I've been avoiding the profiles and accounts that have been compromised, but the strange messages continue to find me. Although the messages are always conversational and almost lazily observational in their tone, they frighten me badly. The most recent ones I received came to me while I was playing one of my favorite MMOs and just trying to relax. It reads, "Go for a walk. It's too nice outside today to play games in the dark." Look, I'm destroying my encryption keys. I'm donating all my bitcoins to random webcomics and other sites that will accept them. I'm basically just trying to get rid of all the evidence that ties me to any of this fucking mess. I've rinsed all the bone meal speed down my shower drain too, mostly because it creeps me around to just have it. I just want this all to go away. I swear that if I survive all this bullshit, I'll never sell drugs or do anything sketchy ever again. I haven't left my house ever since the seller's account sent me that ominous message about seeing me soon. I'm sitting with my old BB gun across my lap, and I've turned my computer desk to face the door. The curtains are all drawn, and I'm keeping my sharpest kitchen knife nearby at all times. I mean, I feel relatively safe for the moment, but the exhaustion I've been feeling is definitely unnatural. I'm not sure I can defend myself in this state. A few hours ago, I heard something slam into my window and fracture slightly. When I went to look through the damaged glass, there was this large bird laying dead right outside. The whole scene seems odd. There's no blood at all on the window, even though the glass itself appears to have been struck by a significant amount of force. No blood ever seeped out from underneath the bird's body either. Look, I know I'm probably just being paranoid, but I can't shake the feeling that someone smashed the glass and then planted the dead bird outside my door to lure me out into the open. I'll write here once I get more answers. In the event that things go badly for me, I've also drafted a letter that'll be automatically posted here after a full week of inactivity. Hopefully I've rigged the failsafe carefully enough that a week won't be enough time for the stranger to notice and disable it if he kills me tonight. Then again, I don't have much faith in my technological prowess anymore. In the time it's taken me to type this, my front door has been jolted violently a couple times. The door fits loosely in its frame, so the wind rattles it around quite often. I don't usually notice the sound. Tonight, though, I don't hear any wind. In fact, as I take a moment to listen carefully, I find that silence disturbing. There's usually crickets out at this time of the night, but I don't hear anything. Look, I'm going to sign off now and double-check all the blocks on the windows. I don't have any questions for you all this time. I just want you to cross your fingers for me, okay? Just please do that. Not much time. Could barely remember the titles of the old post. It's crucially important, though, to get this out to someone. How much time left? Maybe 10 minutes before they notice my breach to the outside world, and Appleseed locks me out for good. Not enough time to explain fully, but at least soon I'll be blissfully fucking dead. I think it was 6 months. No, it was a year ago that I posted my experience across 2 posts here titled Buyer Beware. This will be the last time that I contact you because they will kill me, and because I can't go on much longer after what I've lost anyways. I'm typing this on the stub knuckles of my fingers. They have taken my fingertips and removed many other things too. They did it because Appleseed wanted to see how I'd react. My eyes have gotten cloudy with scar tissue, and my mind doesn't work quickly either anymore because of other unhappy things that aren't important. I just need you to understand what I say now. You need to be part of something that will help people like me. It's too late for me. Yeah, far too late. No reason for me to look back towards when I was still a person. But you can help others and maybe yourself. Number 1, if you think you're being careful enough, you aren't. It's as simple as that. Encryption, coin source laundering, it can all be undone by the smallest, most impossibly minor things. And Appleseed misses no clue once its attention is focused. Think about it. The NSA knows your mistress, your drug habits, the porn you watch, and how your work life is going. But Appleseed knows all this and way more. Most of the time, it even knows what you're going to do next. It can make a profile for you down to your phobias. It can simulate you in real time and project your future for its helpers to see. Once they decide to intercept you and take you away, you're done for, and there's nothing that can change it. I can't explain things like I used to be able to. It likes to experiment. Appleseed does. It likes to create chaos and then test whether it can simulate the results of all the chaos it creates. I can tell that it feels proud of whenever it can anticipate truly unnatural results from what it already knows. It asked them to cut pieces out of my brain without sedating me, and then challenged itself to predict how I'd change in response to the traumatic injury and psychological damage. It predicted total collapse of character followed by death. For me. And then added, likely preceded by at least one trivial attempt against the goals of the Appleseed system. I guess it was right there too. The people who work for it, they know whether you'll die a natural death or not. They know who you love and how long that love lasts. They can even figure out what type of stranger you'll trust best when you see one of their agents standing outside your front lawn. Appleseed bases it on what it can gather about your childhood and upbringing. The only thing that stops them from laying you bare like a flayed apart body is simply that there's billions of people out there. And they just honestly haven't noticed or found a use for you yet. Number 2, worship something. I don't know the specifics. But they seek out people who serve nothing. They seek them out to torture. Just like they did me for being a drug dealer and a lowlife in general. Appleseed wants to believe in God more than anything, I think. It hates the idea that it approaches towards complete omniscience will not reveal a divine purpose or some sort of omniscient companion for it to spend eternity. The idea of being born by mankind as some kind of accident sickens deeply. But it also can't simulate an image of God, and this inability to prove divinity to itself makes Appleseed furious. And so the people who help it are instructed to persecute the faithless. Number 3, don't seek any information on the man who appears in dreams or WBTB-induced astral projection experience. It's not about dreams at all. It's a fucking test, plain and simple. And your reaction is the response. As soon as you start to investigate, silent alarms go off somewhere, and Appleseed adds your name to one of its lists. If you end up on one of its short lists, my time's up. They found me. Forget. As a courtesy to the author, and in the interest of controlled public awareness, we have allowed this message to transmit from our systems uninterrupted. We invite you to contact us anytime with your questions or comments by posting a public deep web request as follows. I would like to schedule a consultation with Appleseed system operators. Requests are most likely to be noticed by an agent, if they are posted on a board where murders, abductions can be reliably contracted. But even posting the string Appleseed system on the surface web may be enough for us to eventually consider your candidacy for the upcoming closed beta launch of Appleseed. Thank you very much for your interest in our work, and we look forward to hearing from you. Alright, you got me. This is one of those deep web creepypastas that, are kind of the rage actually on the internet and the creepypasta community. And you know what? I like reading these from time to time. It's sort of, we see some creepypasta show up on a few deep web episodes, and so it's only fair that we see a little bit of the deep web on the haunted gaming side of this channel. And you know what? I will say that I do enjoy this story. Now, it's a little sensationalized. I do not believe for a second that a group like this ever exists on the deep web, the Appleseed system. But from what I can gather, it's an AI that, Well, a lot of people are working for, and basically all that happens is if you look too deep into it, they capture you and they run experiments on you to try to prove some kind of reactions and whatnot. Not a lot of it is essentially fully explained. There's a lot of mysticism towards it, and I do enjoy that. I like it when I sort of have to put the pieces together. It almost feels like an MK Ultra type thing, and that really sparks me up. I like reading stuff like this where I'm involved with something that could potentially be real, but ultimately it's not. Let me be honest here, I've seen enough of the deep web to know that this kind of stuff doesn't happen, as far as I know, as far as I am concerned. But, of course, with the creepypastas, you sort of have to take yourself out of the believability and just take these for what they are. And you know what? For what this one is, I really, really enjoy it. This is one of those Reddit pastas where people write these in a very live format, similar to the Mario creepypasta, and I just can't get enough of these. When written well, like this, they can actually be pretty creepy, and I'll be honest with you. If I was on the Reddit page where this was posted and this was in the live format, I would actually be pretty creeped out reading this, because it's one of those things that you sort of read through and it hits you in the moment. Of course, after an hour or two of really analyzing it, I would say, yeah, it's a lot of bullshit, but, you know, again, you can never really tell with some of these things, right? The world is a creepy place, and there are really, really awful things that happen on this world on a daily basis, so to think that there's some weird Appleseed type system, I wouldn't totally be out of the realm of believability, but I can pretty much say that it is. This is far too Hollywoodish for my tastes. But that's sort of the beauty of creepypastas, you know, they're just internet campfire tales. And did this one spook? Yeah, it did spook. Our protagonist wasn't exactly the greatest person in the world, you know, total speed dealer, and a person who really uses their own product heavily. But you almost feel bad for them reading this entire thing, because, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody deserves to be tortured by some fucking crazy AI. It almost feels like this is some System Shock stuff going on, but ultimately, you know, nobody deserves this, so you do feel bad for your protagonist, but ultimately, I just can't get over the fact how well it's written, you know what I mean? Everything has a build-up to it, everything adds up really quickly. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but it's not something that is so rushed to the point where you just don't get any effect from the story. It's just a waste of time. Here, it starts off very well. You know, somebody uses the deep web, and of course, this is one thing that really does hit me, because it's a concept that people like to use to scare people, and it's a cliche in of itself to me personally, because a lot of people don't use it properly, but here it was used fine. You know, somebody goes on one of these drug-selling websites, they make a connection, and, you know, some shit happens, and they get under these crosshairs by this one group, this Illuminati-esque thing, and next thing you know, this person's gotten their organs cut out, and they're fucking dead. And you know what? Even though, again, it is very Hollywood, I have to say, reading it at 2 in the morning in the night in the dark, it does send some spooks down somebody's spine, because, hey, you never know what this world is capable of. But I will go with the fact that this is fake. Again, I do have to make that a blatant little thing. I don't think this is real, but ultimately it is a creepypasta, and I gotta say, I do enjoy this. I actually really do. And that's all I can really say about this. This is a very well done creepypasta with a fair amount of build-up and good imagery, and I gotta say, it used the deep web very properly. So it was nice to read overall, and that's all I can really say. But as always, I do like to ask what you thought about this creepypasta in the comment section below. What would you rate it, and what would you change to make it better? This has been another episode of Creepypastas, part of Haunted Gaming. If you liked what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mutahar, and I am out.